I'm here at the Pan Pacific Whistler Village Hotel, and if you want to know about more of my stay here, you can visit my other channel, which is Trophy Travel Experiences, and see my review of this. But today I'm going to do a little video on my predictions for who will get a Michelin star in Vancouver. The Michelin stars rewarded to restaurants in Toronto have just been announced. There's 13 that have received Michelin stars in Toronto, one that received two Michelin stars, and the rest received one Michelin stars. So my kind of thought process on that is, even though there's some great restaurants in Vancouver, that most likely we're not going to get as many as Toronto, and therefore we're looking at probably between 6 to 8 Michelin stars. Now, I'm not a food critic. I know nothing about the process. I have no insider information. I'm just a consumer that eats a lot of food, and I'm a foodie that likes to travel all around the world. In my opinion, and I've eaten obviously in Vancouver for all my life, and over the course of the history, these are the restaurants that I think will have the best opportunity. I'm going to run through them. The one that I really like for the best French restaurant out there is St. Lawrence. It's been probably 6 or 8 years. They're also the owners, I think, of As for Luigi, which is a great Italian restaurant. I'm not sure if that's going to make the list, but I think St. Lawrence is really the top French restaurant in town. It's kind of a Montreal influence, but I think they should deserve a star. Another restaurant in Chinatown called Kissa Tanto. I've also done some reviews of that. I really like that restaurant. It's in Chinatown. It's a Japanese Italian fusion restaurant run by Joel Watanabe. He's doing some magnificent things there, and I think it should be on the list because it makes excellent food, but it's a very, very unique restaurant. You can't find this type of cuisine anywhere else in the world that I've traveled. Some very, very unique dishes. The other ones that I think will have very good chance is Hawksworth, of David Hawksworth fame. That's really the top high-end formal restaurant in Vancouver. I haven't been there for quite a while. I hope to review it soon. I probably will wait for it to get a star before I review it again. But you know, it's a very top-end restaurant, and really, when people talk about Vancouver and high-end dining, Hawksworth is always on that list. Then I think there's a couple of restaurants that have very notable chefs. So I think they're going to get stars. Tojo, who is also the top, I would say the top Japanese restaurant in town. Now, I'm not saying by taste preference, but just by kind of fame and notoriety. I think they're the top end, and he's well known all around the world, so he probably will get a star. Cioppino, probably the best known Italian restaurant in town, and that's Pino Pastorero, and so he will likely get a star. The other one that I think is probably likely to get one is Vikram Vij's restaurant, Vijs. It's kind of under the radar. It's been around for a long time, but not garnered the popularity or the notoriety in the last couple of years, but it's a top-end Indian cuisine, and so he's also very well known internationally, so that could be likely. Those restaurants represent, to me, the most likely to get stars. So next, I'm going to go through a list of restaurants that I think are also in the running, but unfortunately, I don't think that maybe one or two of these will get in, so I kind of think they're all quality restaurants, and they're all very close. So let's start with Continental Restaurants. So just contemporary West Coast food. There's a couple of great ones. There's one called Boulevard at the Sutton Place Hotel. I've been to there. I've done a review of that. So again, at the end of this, in the comment section, I will put down the restaurants that I've noted that I've visited and have a YouTube video on, so you can look at my video on that. And then the other one is the Bacchus restaurant. I really like that restaurant as a high-end restaurant, and that's at the Wedgwood Hotel. So there's a couple of restaurants that are a little bit controversial, and I'll talk about them. One is Published on Main, and I think made my views clear on that. It was rated the #1 restaurant in Canada by some people. Unfortunately, I don't think, based on those ratings, I'm not sure what they're doing with those ratings. I think it's a great restaurant, don't get me wrong. I'm not sure it's number one, and I don't even think it may not get a star. It might, and I might be totally wrong. It could be my own bias, but I just think it's a fairly new restaurant, and it maybe needs a little bit of track record to see how it goes. So I wouldn't be surprised, but I hope that Michelin won't give them a star because it's a very new restaurant, and really with the other ones that I've talked about earlier, they have really established records of quality, and so perhaps a publisher may need a couple more years. And the other one is Aquafarina. I don't even want to mention them because I don't think they're in the same breath as the other quality of the restaurants, but they are a restaurant of note. People like them on Instagram. Unfortunately, I had a not great experience with them. I think their food is decent, but I think there's a lot of other Italian restaurants that are way higher in terms of the food quality. And so I hope they don't get a star. I really don't think they deserve one. And again, they're a pretty new restaurant. So that's my thoughts on those restaurants. How about French restaurants? For me, there's lots of places in the world that have great French restaurants, so I'm not gonna cover too many of them. The two notable ones here, which I don't believe will get stars, are Le Crocodile and Provence. Both of them, I think, have really well-established kind of connections within the culinary community. But as you saw in my review with Le Crocodile, again, personally, I don't think it's really up to that standard. And in fact, I think it's on the decline a bit. I don't know if the owner is going to be retiring soon, but anyways, and Provence is a nice restaurant, but, and I think they have, again, lots of connections in the culinary community, but they're a good restaurant, but I don't think they would meet the standard of some of the other restaurants. Couple random restaurants that might be interesting. There's one that's a Peruvian restaurant, which I really enjoyed. I hope to do a full review on it. I think I did on this channel, called Ancora. I like that restaurant quite a bit. Unique food, so that might garner some notoriety. And there's a multitude of restaurants in Vancouver that serve Beijing style duck or roast duck. The best to me is still Mott 32. There's a restaurant called I'll have it in the comment section on 12th and Granville. I think it's called Chunja. It's a real high-end restaurant, but to me, it's a lot of flash, similar to Aquafarina. Great for YouTubers and Instagrammers, but really in terms of the quality of food and the quality of service, not quite up to speed. There's another one that I like called Chang'an, actually, which is, I think, better for duck than Janjidi, but unfortunately, I don't think that is a great restaurant, but not up to Michelin standard. For Italian food, I like Lupo. I really think that is a very good restaurant, along with Chin Chin, which is a Mediterranean style restaurant. Again, those are restaurants I would be rooting for. I would have no knock if they had got a Michelin star. I'm hoping they will. I think it's unlikely, just because given a number of stars that I think that will be given out, they're great restaurants. Other ones that kind of also will probably be listed at least in Michelin will be Savio Volpe, Ask for Luigi, and there's a couple other ones that are listed in the Canada Top 100 list that are, to me, a little bit similar. But La Quatreria is also a great restaurant on the west side of Vancouver. And then there is also Annalena, which is also noted. But again, I think they're a little casual in terms of their service standard. And I think that will, that's one of the positive things of a Michelin coming into Vancouver. I think it will bring up the service standards, although it's really tough on restaurants at this point because of the shortage of staff. And that goes across the board for every industry right now. Let's go to Japanese food. There's a multitude of great Japanese restaurants in town. There's also, I'll note, there are a lot of Korean restaurants. They probably don't have the high-end part of it, but they could, a lot of them could garner Bib Gourmand. I'm not as familiar with those, but there are lots of them on Robson Street and all across Vancouver, so those could be interesting. For the Japanese restaurants, there's two of note that I think are really great restaurants that may make the list. I just don't think there's enough room, and hopefully, in a year or two, when Michelin rewards more stars, they could be up for a star. One is Tetsu in the west end of Vancouver, and the other one is Yua on the west side of Vancouver. Let's go to Thai cuisine. There's two notable Thai restaurants, I think both that I have reviewed on this channel. One is in Richmond called Ban Lao, and then that's fairly high end. And then the other one is Manam, which is Angus Ann's restaurant on the west side of Vancouver. Both very, very good restaurants. So again, best of luck to them. They could garner a star just because of the unique cuisine. Thai cuisine is not out of the ordinary, and again, it's hard to get great Thai cuisine across the world. So Vancouver has got some great restaurants and a lot of diversity. I had to redo my tape on Chinese restaurants because I had said there's a couple of Chinese restaurants, and the problem that the Chinese restaurants suffer even more than other restaurants in Vancouver is quality of service. And I don't think they're really and it's really tough right now because of COVID and the shortage of staff, but more so in Chinese restaurants. Sometimes they get a bit lackadaisical with service, particularly in terms of the North American standards. So the best restaurants that I think are out there that have a shot at a star or being listed in Michelin is Mott 32 downtown. I really think they have restaurants all around the world, very top quality. There's a local restaurants, San Sui Hua, who has both branches in Main Street and Richmond, is very good. And I was gonna recommend Chef Tony. I just was there the other day, had a brutal experience at lunch, really bad service. I couldn't even get in. I had a reservation. They wouldn't honor the reservation. The hostess treated me like basically I was invisible. Their food quality, from what I remember 2 years ago, was great, but you can't have that with, especially with people traveling all around the world. If you had that type of stuff, so unfortunately I can't recommend them because I can't even get in to eat their food. Maybe dinner is better, but I don't know this, but I almost think there's been some change in management because I've been there before. It hasn't been this bad. So, and I've been to other Chinese restaurants. So unfortunately, I can't recommend Chef Tony at least for lunch. Maybe dinner is better. You'll basically be completely freaked out in terms of their service standard. It's just ridiculous. Anyways, so moving on with other restaurants in Richmond, I think there'll be some nice cheap eats or bib gourmand. Two that I've reviewed on this channel is basically it's Little Mexico Cantina, which is an established restaurant in Steveston. Please go out and check it out. It's really great in Steveston. And the other one is La Majan, which is a hole-in-a-wall restaurant. It's not going to garner a Michelin star, but it's a spectacular homemade place. Go and check them out. Again, there's so many restaurants in Vancouver, so many choices. It's really difficult to cover all of them. And I'd love to hear everyone's comments about what I think. Just a kind of note, I'm not sure if they're going to be rating outside of Vancouver because is it Vancouver proper? I saw in the Toronto ratings they did rate one or two restaurants that are not exactly in Toronto. So if they come out, the two other likely locations where there could be ratings would be Richmond, and there's some exceptional Asian restaurants in Richmond. I mentioned a couple of them on this video. Particularly the Bib Gourmand rating will garner some. I'm in Whistler. Whistler is kind of a world-class location, and there's some great restaurants up here. The most likely ones that are gonna garner attention, if they do in fact come up to Whistler, is going to be Barefoot Bistro, which has got an exceptional wine list, Araxi, and then there's one called the Rimrock Cafe, which are three really, really magnificent restaurants in Whistler. I'll also do I'm in Whistler, and so I've had some eats in Whistler, so please look at my upcoming videos. I'll have some reviews of some of the restaurants I visited in Whistler, and I had a great time here. Excellent food and excellent location. So let me know what you think about my video. Until next time, happy eating.